Peggy Hodge, WJR Traffic and Weather First.
Skies mostly clear tonight. We're on our way to the low and mid 40s for overnight lows, but highs in the afternoon on Tuesday, upper 60s, back above average. Will be a little bit breezy, but we are going to stay dry with partly cloudy skies. Wednesday, even warmer as we go to 70 degrees. And we take a little bit of a midweek dip on Thursday. Highs will be in the low to mid 60s. Starting to warm by the weekend. In fact, Saturday, we could expect high temperatures in the mid 70s. I'm Local 4 meteorologist Ben Bailey.
It's time for Lions Review. Presented by MGM Grand Detroit. Believe in your game. Now here's the voice of the Detroit Lions, Dan Miller.
Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Lions Review. Lions coming off a loss yesterday to the New Orleans Saints. Now they hit the bye at 1-3, and we got a lot to talk about tonight. To help me do that is the one, the only Mike O'Hara from DetroitLions.com and longtime beat writer for the Detroit Lions. Michael, good evening to you.
Good evening, Dan. How are you?
I am doing just super. All right. So make some sense of this for me, Mike, because it's right now, bottom line is this just isn't a very good football team. And in particular on defense, I believe I asked Lomas yesterday during the game to tell me one thing they do well defensively. He couldn't come up with anything. That's a problem.
No, it's been disappointing. It's not what I expected. I thought they'd be a pretty good team, and I thought they had some components there to be a pretty good team. When I look back at yesterday's game, the 14-0 lead, and when it was over, I thought, boy, they really blew it, and they were just blowing them out. Then I thought about it, Dan, that was kind of an illusion. When it was 14-0, I don't know how to say this exactly, but the Saints offense had been on the field for one play.
Yeah.
It's not like they were stuffing the Saints on defense and running up and down the field on offense. They had one 18-play drive to a touchdown and an interception that gave them the ball. Other than that, you didn't even see the Saints on the field. And so once they took over, wham, touchdown, 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 game over. That's when it was a game for the not the first 4.5 minutes, but the last 55 and a half minutes, and they absolutely dominated that portion of the game. So yeah, they had a 14-0 lead. But when I really thought about it last night, I thought, that was an illusion. It made it seem like more than it really was. Now, don't get me wrong, 14-0 is a good lead.
Yeah,
but it doesn't give.
They made plays to get to that 14-0, but once the dust settled, it became apparent one team was better than the other.
That was okay, boys. Let's play ball. And the Saints have had their problems, and they had all those starters out, 6 starters. Michael Thomas being the big one for the third straight game. But I didn't make a big deal about that. Look, the Lions played without 5 or 6 guys in the first 2 games. That's part of the National Football League, and it's really even more of a part of in this era when you're mixing the COVID-19 with the other day. In years past, it was, you think his ankle will be healthy enough for him to play on Sunday. Now it is, will he get out of quarantine in time?
Yeah.
But there are far more injuries than there are COVID-19, but it just adds an element to it that was never there before.
This chat with Mike O'Hara brought to you by Comerica Bank. Experience full service banking at Comerica Bank. Learn more at ComericaBank.com. And Mike, there's a lot of layers to this in terms of what's going on. But you look at Bears game, Bears score 21 straight. Packers game, Packers score 31 straight. Yesterday's game, Saints score 35 straight. I mean, you can't win like that in the National Football League. And there's 2 sides to it. There's the defense that isn't stopping anybody. And then, frankly, there's the offense, which they can score too. It can be a shootout, but they've gone into these lulls. We'll talk to Matthew Stafford about that a little bit later in the show. The red zone interception by Matthew was costly, but this isn't look, we can break it down unit by unit, which we will, but this isn't just one. This is the entire team that's breaking down during these extended periods where the other team is taking control of the game.
Well, let's not put too much blame on Jack Fox, the punter, and the holder. He's been great. But another thing is, look, that's 87 straight points 3 teams have run on the Detroit Lions. 87 points when you add it all up, with the Bears and then the Saints, and then before that the Packers. How do you do that? I mean, you're not even a factor in the game at that point. You're not moving the ball on offense. You're not defending defensively. I take exception, though, to the turning point of the game might be that interception in the end zone. The Saints got the ball at the 20-yard line. The score was 14-14. It's not against the law to stop them and make them punt.
No, it's not. But at least
allowed to do that.
at that point, you take a 21-14 lead, you get back in the game, and you kind of stop the onslaught of points. But to your point, I mean, go ahead.
But you haven't stopped anything. You haven't stopped them on defense, and all you've done is give them the ball. But you still
but at least maybe you could win 42-41. I mean, that appears to be what they have to do right now. Because, Mike, listen to this. The drive for New Orleans, 13 plays, 75 yards, 7:15 off the clock. 10 plays, 80 yards, 5:42 off the clock. 9 plays, 80 yards, 5:26 off the clock. 4 plays, 49 yards, and then 10 plays, 75 yards. I mean, those were long drives. It wasn't like these were big, huge chunk plays. These were just methodical marches down the field. And it's one thing I'll ask Matt Patricia about later. 10 out of 14 on third down. Now, he made the point, and Trey Flowers made the point, that a lot of those were short yardage because they put themselves in those positions. But you got to get off the field, man.
Got to get off the field.
14.
Right. And that's after it's 14-0, too. And that's when they just took the game over.
They did. And I think what I hear most from people is just significant disappointment about this defense. This is supposed to be what Matt Patricia does. This is supposed to be, this is how he made his bones in the National Football League and how he earned the right to become a head coach. Is he was looked at as one of the better defensive coaches in the NFL. And this team, for a couple of years now, has been brutal defensively. And I think there's something isn't connecting there. Something's not working. And I think when he came in, people thought, okay, we're going to get the defense in line now. I've had Stafford for a while. Now we're going to get the defense in line. And I think it is one, I've said this before, the biggest problem that this organization has right now. And it's also the biggest indictment of the people that are running it, is that you have had these problems and you have not been able to fix them.
Yeah, they really haven't added a primetime player either in the draft or free agency in the last couple of years to that. Now, 5, 6, 7 years ago, whatever it was, 2013, they added Ziggy Ansah, who had he stayed healthy, he was a big time player. You match him up with Ndamukong Suh. They had guys, Cliff Averill, they had ball players on that side of the ball. They had that team that got beat by Dallas in the playoff in 2014. I think had 6 Pro Bowl players on that side of the ball, at one side or the other. I don't see that right now, unless somebody develops faster than I'm expecting it to happen.
No, and that becomes problematic. I mean, they signed Flowers, but he can't do it by himself. And to me, Trey is more of a really good complementary guy. I don't know that Trey is the guy that you look at and say he's our alpha out there defensively. But the other guys haven't developed, and it just pass rush is not there. Can't stop the run. They had 164 yards on the ground yesterday. You can't win in this league if you're giving up 164 yards on the ground.
And that was not a total that was inflated by 2 or 3 big runs. There were 42 carries there to get the 160. That's what, 4 yards a carry, and they just chopped them up, chop up and down the field.
Yeah, look, this isn't a conversation that you and I want to be having.
No.
It's a lot easier to sit around and talk about a team that is successful, but unfortunately, it's reality, and it's where they are right now. And now the question becomes, how do you get out of this? How do you find? So you got 12 games left. Is it possible to get out of it this year, or has the die been cast? And this is what that defense is. Nobody down the park is going to say that, but the evidence right now indicates this defense isn't very good. The question is, can they do anything about it?
Look, there's no group of guys in Toledo working out to come here to Detroit. It just doesn't exist in the National Football League. It's the way it is. I just want to flip over to one other thing on the other side of the ball, too, and that was just the way the Detroit Lions operated on offense late in the game, huddling up. It was a 13-play drive, took up almost 5 minutes. When you're trying to get back in the game, huddling, dink, 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 dink. No sense of urgency whatsoever. None.
Yeah,
I was grinding my teeth watching that, telling Tim Twentyman every other play. When are they going to just go no huddle? Hurry up.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I did mention urgency on the broadcast, but I mean, even with that, and I'm pulling it up the drive chart right now. Even with that, they gave the ball back to where in the heck is my drive chart? They gave the ball back to the Saints with what 3:40 to go.
Yeah, right.
I mean, so that's plenty of time to get the ball back if you can come up with a stop. Look, on that 3rd and 5, if Breeze doesn't complete that pass over Tracy Walker and to the receiver, who I forget who the defensive back was on that play, it was that 3rd and 5. Yeah, well, I'm looking it up for those of you not watching online. So they took over with 3:40 to go on the 3rd and 5. He beat Jeff Okuda to Traquan Smith for 19 yards on the 3rd and 5. If you make a play right there, you got the ball back with plenty of time, and you're putting it back in Stafford's hands where he's feeling confident. So I agree with you. I would have liked to have seen a little more urgency, but the fact is they still had plenty of time if you can get a defensive stop.
No, I agree with that, but also you give yourself some margin for error if you have more time.
Yeah.
To me, it's just a way of operating.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying, but look, if they had gotten that ball back and stopped him on that 3rd and 5, but look, if there is unfortunately something that we have kind of applied to this team now, going back to last year when they lost all the close games and this year when they're losing the close, key defensive stops just haven't been there. They just haven't been there. They did get them against Arizona, 2 late, which were huge, but they're just not getting them consistently. Let's take a break. We're going to come back in just a moment. You'll hear from the head coach. We're glad you're with us. This is Lions Review. We're going back over their game yesterday against the New Orleans Saints. We'll talk about the bye. We'll talk about the road ahead. We'll talk about what's going on with this football team right here on your home of the Lions. Stick around. We'll be right back.
to more Lions Review. Presented by MGM Grand Detroit. Believe in your game. Here's Dan Miller.
3rd and goal for the Saints. Out of the gun, it's Breeze. Hands off to Murray. Murray fighting at the 1 and got in for the touchdown. Latavius Murray is a big, strong back, absorbed contact at the 1 and just forced his way in. 6'3", 230. Yes. He's a big dude, man.
And he ran behind Derek Kelly, Eric McCoy, and Cesar Ruiz. Again, those guys got some nice surge in the middle, pushed our guys back. And like I say, if they could get surge and push our defensive line back 2 or 3 yards, the contact on the running back won't be for another 3 yards. Nice job by New Orleans to respond to our touchdown drive.
Yeah, he just dragged a couple dudes into the end zone with him, man. Yeah, he is a strong runner. And the one thing that Lowe and I talked about a lot on the air was just the lack of contact that the Lions were getting on those backs until they had a full head of steam a couple yards down the field.
Was that the 3rd and goal of the 6? Is that the one they scored, the one you just played?
Yeah, I believe so.
If you look at that, and Chris Spielman pointed this out on one of our videos on DetroitLions.com, 3 and out, the Lions played 1 defensive lineman and linebackers in a stand-up position there at the 6-yard line. Just knocked them over like they were bowling pins.
Yeah.
Take a look at it again. I didn't understand that.
Yeah, Lomas talked about the fact that you could see the Lions, you could read the names on the Lions jerseys from the side, which was an indication that they were spun around, and the other guys were going straight forward. They just had better position, and it just that was one that was won by the Saints right there on that touchdown run. All right, let's get to our chat with Lions head coach Pat Patricia, brought to you by MGM Grand Detroit. Believe in your game. Just asked him overall thoughts on that game with the Saints yesterday.
Well, I mean, I think, probably pretty obvious. Started the game really fast. I thought that was great. Really had good balance all the way around the phases of the game. I thought that was good. And then, just thought that in the middle of the game, didn't play very well, had some mistakes, had some penalties, had some situations come up that I didn't think we coached or played very well. And those areas kind of cost us, and we put ourselves, behind. So, from that standpoint, I thought thought the team showed a lot of heart in digging back out of that situation and really trying to do everything they could to, at the end of the game, be in a situation to give us a chance. But we certainly know how great of a team the Saints are and how well coached, and certainly with Drew Brees over there on the other side of the ball, it's hard to put yourself in that situation. So from that standpoint, we know that we can't do that. We got to just play consistent all the way through the game.
What did you see early from the offense that was working for you?
I definitely thought that, offensively, it was a good mix of tempo in and out of the huddle. I thought the run game, and then certainly some of the play action passes that we had. We had some big plays early, which was great. And, just thought it was consistent from that standpoint, with moving the ball around to different guys on our team. Thought that was great.
In terms of the empty possessions that followed that, everybody wants to point to the defense and say the defense gave up 5 touchdowns in a row, which is fact. But also the offense can change the flow of the game if they can score. And you did have 1 red zone turnover, which really hurts. But just thoughts on kind of what happens when you fall into that lull there, because that's part of that run as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's got to go out, and all phases have to do their, we got to do our jobs better. And look, the defense, we've got to stop them. We can't let them go down and score. And offensively, we've got to stay on the field, and we've got to keep those drives going and not have the quick turnaround. And certainly when special teams gets out there, they've got to do their job in that field position battle also from that standpoint. So, you don't like it when games go that way. And certainly there's, the offenses that you face that are really good that are going to go down and score. And we just can't let it happen multiple times in a row. And certainly from a complementary game standpoint, you need the other phases to pick it up in those moments too. So it's just how everybody works.
Did you feel like their running game kind of dictated the pace of this game? The fact that they were able to establish that?
I mean, I definitely think they had a great game plan in the run game. I thought they executed at a high level. They've got 2 great backs, and they really moved the line of scrimmage at times. So, we've got to do a better job earlier in the game of establishing that and making sure that, they can't just, run it for 5, 6, 7 yards a pop and then break a big one. We've got to be able to settle that down quicker.
Just to be able to expound upon that for a second, when you talk about a guy like Drew Brees, where the ball comes out so quickly, if he even freezes you for a fraction of a second on that play action, which you have to respect when they're running the ball that well, makes it really difficult to deal with him.
Yeah, and he does a great job of really reading defensive coverages, and he knows where the ball's going to go most of the times before the snap, but really post-snap. I thought he did a great job of kind of going through his progressions and getting the ball out fast and into the right guys in those situations. So, give credit to him. Obviously, he's a great player.
10 out of 14 on third down. They kept drives alive. That's your opportunity to get off the field. Did you see any common thread in terms of what was happening on those critical downs?
I mean, I think definitely in those situations, certainly we got to get off the field. And a lot of those third downs were third and shorter situations where obviously what happened on first and second down affected third down. And, we put them in those, high percentage completion or high percentage conversion situations on third down, which we got to try to get those teams off track.
Two more on the defense. What did you see late in the game that changed where you were able to get a couple of stops?
Just some adjustments that we did. And I thought, obviously understanding some of the runs that they were, implementing in the game plan, just, going out and playing it better and coaching it better during the course of the game. I thought things settled down towards the end.
Last thing on the defense, it did look like you had guys in position quite a lot to make plays during that game. It did not look like one of your better tackling games.
Definitely there was some missed tackles in that game that I thought, would have helped us along the way. Certainly, they have very good skilled players, and those guys are great in space, and, give them credit too. But we got to do a good job of those fundamentals.
Hey, final thing. This isn't where anybody wants it to be right now, but you have some time to get ready before that next game. Got time for guys to rest, but you also have some time for some critical work before they leave Allen Park. Just your thoughts on what you want to see accomplished during the bye week.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big week for us. It's really got to be about us. It's got to be about what have we done well, what have we done not so well, and how do we make it more consistent, all the way across the board. And, it's important for the coaches and the players to take a real good look at it and, evaluate what we're doing and making sure that going forward we're doing things that, that help us win.
All right, there he is, Lions head coach Matt Patricia, as the team is on their bye now. A couple of days of work at Allen Park, and then they will get set for a couple of days off and come back and get ready to play the final 12 games of their season. Dan Miller, Mike O'Hara with you here on Lions Review. And Michael, I don't know, maybe we say sometimes buys come at a good time, bad time, whatever. I don't know. I kind of feel like this is about as good a time as you can get for these guys. They could probably use a little time to take a breath, try to figure some things out if they can figure it out, and just come back ready to go in a week and a half.
I think most years you'd want your bye to be like week 6 at the earliest, because then you still got to make the long run to the end of the season. But I think this is one time where the sooner the better, the way things are going right now. If they're going to make any semblance of a season, they've got to start right now. And I think they got to clear their heads a little bit and get their game together, and then come back and make a run against Jacksonville and then Carolina, and then come home after those 2 road games and try to do something. But if you're going to make a season out of it, it's got to start right now. And I really think this team needs more rest and time to, mental therapy than anything else. Now, I'm not discounting the mistakes, the physical stuff that's on the field, but there just seems to be a funk on this team right now, and they got to get rid of it.
Yeah, and got to be better really in offense and defense in particular. And I think that when you look at it, they have to figure out some way just to string more good plays together. More good plays equal, a quarter equals a half equals a game. And it's just finding a way to play more of the 60 minutes at a high pace, which they just haven't been able to do. And at a pace where you can win the game, at a level you can win the game, I should say. And that's what they're looking to do. So we're going to take a break coming up. We will come right back. On the other side, Matthew Stafford, had a chance to talk with him about the offense. Fast start, did not have the kind of mid performance that they were looking for with 4 empty possessions. Got it going a little bit at the end, but in the end, it just wasn't enough. So more of Lions Review coming up right after this.
This is a Fox News Alert. I'm Rich Dennison. After 3 nights at Walter Reed Medical Center, President Trump is back at the White House. White House physician Dr. Sean Conley says the president is still not out of the woods.
If we can get through to Monday with him remaining the same or improving, better yet, then we will all take that final deep sigh relief.
Conley says the White House medical team will be able to handle anything that might have occurred at Walter Reed. The president earlier tweeting that he felt better than he had in 20 years. The Supreme Court began its new term today with a seat left vacant by the death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
The High Court is working in the midst of a pandemic that has forced the court to meet by telephone. Among the cases on the court's docket, a post-election case which could determine the constitutionality of the Affordable Care Act.
Fox's John Decker in Washington. America is listening to Fox News.
75 southbound between Adams and 8 Mile, 75 northbound between 7 Mile and Adams. Construction, only 2 lanes open each way through early November. There is additional work along 75 northbound between Crooks and Adams, leaving only 1 lane open through this Friday. I'm Peggy Hodge, WJR Traffic and Weather First.
Skies mostly clear tonight. We're on our way to the low and mid 40s for overnight lows, but highs in the afternoon on Tuesday, upper 60s, back above average. Will be a little bit breezy, but we are going to stay dry with partly cloudy skies. Wednesday even warmer as we go to 70 degrees. And we take a little bit of a midweek dip on Thursday. Highs will be in the low to mid 60s, starting to warm by the weekend. In fact, Saturday we could expect high temperatures in the mid 70s. I'm Local 4 meteorologist Ben Bailey.
Back to more Lions Review. Presented by MGM Grand Detroit. Believe in your game. Here's Dan Miller.
Lions from the Saints 7. Stafford's got it, wants to throw, looks, throws, end zone, caught, touchdown, Detroit Lions, DeAndre Swift. How about that for an opening drive? 7 yards on the strike, Matthew to DeAndre, and the Lions are on top.
And I'm telling you, when the big fellas are hungry, let them eat. And they let them big offensive linemen eat that series in. And boy, did they prove that they can protect, they can open up holes, they can do it all. Let the big fellas eat up front.
You know, it did look good for a while, and it's, a couple players in the postgame mentioned that it was good when they were on script early. And I just wonder if there's something once they got off the script that wasn't there for them in this game. That was kind of the curious thing for me in trying to figure out what happened in this game is just how does it go from looking so good for, a drive and then a short field to just, not much. And granted, there was a red zone interception in there, but that's one of the perplexing things about this offense, Mike, and you'll hear Matthew Stafford talk about it in a moment, is just the way that it just kind of goes into hibernation for a while. And it's just in this league these days with the scoring at the level that it is, it's really difficult to survive when you do that.
No, I don't think there's a script for being behind 28-14 or 35-14. You got to find a way to play football. You ought to be able to persevere in situations like that.
I'm looking over at the early game tonight.
Yes.
I mean, Kansas City's sitting there with 6 points with 12 minutes to go in the third period. I mean, that's the New England defense holding them to 6 points. Now, I'm not watching the game. I don't know exactly what's happened, but I mean, that's when you're living, man. And that's what's missing right now from the Lions is just the ability to hold teams down. They haven't had that. And the point totals that they're surrendering certainly indicate that.
Well, it's 6-3, and that's because of a missed field goal on the last play of the first half by the Patriots, who would have been 6-6.
Yeah, well,
I'm watching it online here.
Yeah, you got to figure something out. It's, again, like you said, there's really nobody walking through that door that's going to appreciably change the roster. So you kind of have who you have, and you got to figure out a way to take this group, move it forward, get better, and find a way to figure something out here because it's hard, man. The questions get difficult. The players aren't enjoying this. Matt Patricia is taking the heat. Look, that's the gig. You get paid to take the heat, but he's taking the heat. It's coming from every angle at this point. And it gets to be pretty miserable to be in that situation when you're losing. It's the way that you judge yourself professionally and you're not winning and it's not fun.
No, and I don't imagine it's any fun for a head coach to be asked about his job security 2 or 3 times a week. Look, everybody gets evaluated, and that's okay when you're at Allen Park and you're getting evaluated by whoever's there, the general manager, the president, the ownership. But when you're getting asked about it, and then all of a sudden your wife reads it, your kids hear it in school, and it changes the entire dynamic of it. It's a completely different level when it becomes a public issue.
Yeah, and to be clear, you're saying it stinks. You're not saying it's unfair because that's part of the gig.
It's part of the deal.
That's what you sign up for. That's a lot of zeros at the end of that number you're getting paid, and your evaluation is based on whether you're winning or losing. And right now, they're not winning, and they understand it when they're in it because they've lived it. But to your point, it doesn't make it any easier on the people that are around you, and it can be really difficult. And
absolutely. And it's look, I talked to Dan Reeves about it, one of the legendary coaches in the league, about the stress of being a head coach. And he said it's almost tolerable when you're winning. And for example, that's what he said. He had like 5 Super Bowls as a player and a coach. And if you're somebody like Andy Reid or Bill Belichick, it's okay for people to hate you because you're winning. That's okay. That's kind of fun.
I had way back when I did George Mason basketball play-by-play in the 90s, and Paul Westhead was the head coach.
Oh yeah,
and loved him. Just a wonderful, wonderful guy. And his wife would come to the games. Now remember, we didn't win a lot. And, he had this go-go offense where, we would score 90, but the other team would score 106. And, there was so many losses and so many just gut-wrenching losses. And I remember I was standing by the court after a game one night and everybody was in the locker room and his wife was there and I was talking to her. I said, how have you dealt with this for so long? I said, it tears me up. And she just kind of gave me the look and she just said, you move on to the next one. She said, you really learn in this profession, you just move on to the next one, because if you let it eat you up, it will. And I'll never forget that conversation, because really, a coach's wife lives the life, and it's hard.
That's a pretty good lifestyle, though, when things are going good. It really is. Especially at the pro level, it really is.
Yeah, look, he was with the Lakers, got a ring and did all that stuff, but I watch what some of these coaches and players go through, man, and it is gut-wrenching. And it's on the outside, it's a wonderful way to make a living. On the inside, it can be when you're winning, but when you're losing, man, it is rough. Let me get to Matthew Stafford here, and this is brought to you by Henry Ford Health System, the official healthcare provider of the Detroit Lions. I had a chance to talk with the Lions quarterback today, and we just talked about another game where, unfortunately, it followed a familiar script, 60 minutes, but not enough of them were filled with good plays made by the Lions.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Obviously, we started the game great. Went down, scored a touchdown. Our defense got a turnover. We capitalized on that turnover, got a touchdown, and then just a huge lull for us. Honestly, had a couple other decent drives in there. Didn't come away with points. I obviously turned the ball over one time. Can't do that. And just as a team, didn't make enough plays kind of throughout the game. Did a nice job coming back in the fourth quarter, but got to be better in the middle of the game.
Look, you've been doing this a long time. Is that as frustrating as it gets when you see what this offense is capable of, but then there's points in the game where you just can't find it?
Yeah, consistency is the name of the game. You're not going to score every time you get the ball you want to, but we just can't have, multiple possessions where we're not putting up points, especially against a good team like the Saints.
We are a quarter of the way through the season, and as you break this thing down, is there anything that you see that's kind of the dividing line between when things are going well and when things are not going well?
I think it's just a combination of everything. It's tempo in and out of the huddle for us on offense. It's execution. It's assignment. It's all that kind of stuff. Obviously, I can play better. As the quarterback, the leader of that offense, the guy that touches the ball on every play, I can be better. And if I'm better, we're scoring more points and we're winning more ball games. So first thing I'm going to do is look in the mirror and find out how I can be better, give our guys on the outside better opportunities to make plays and do what they do, just to try to help us win games. And scoring points is definitely a part of that, so I can be better.
Let me pick up on that for just a second. I know what a competitor you are. I know how much you want to win. I know how much you put on your shoulders when this team isn't winning. Is there a chance when you're looking back at the tape that you're saying, man, I'm pressing too much? There's plays here that I'm trying to make where I probably need to just throw it away or get out of that play, avoiding a loss, avoiding a turnover?
Yeah, that's a fine line. You're exactly right. There's a fine line of trusting your abilities to make plays and help our team win, and doing too much. And sometimes the best answer is just playing within the system and trusting the offense and trusting everybody around you to go make the plays. But the fact of the matter is I can be better, and I know it. And if I do that, we'll win some more games. So I'm gonna start looking at myself and figure out the best way to go from there.
A lot of people are pointing out, I know you've heard the stats about letting double-digit leads get away and things like that. That's an entire team. That's not just the offense. But in your world, is it a matter of being smart with the ball and keeping your foot down on the pedal and just continuing to score?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is not even looking at the scoreboard. We just got to go out there and play each series like it's the first one of the game, and we're trying to go out there and score. Learn from the series before, whatever they're doing as a defense, and try to adapt that way. But at the same time, just, Coach Bev always says, don't measure it, just go out there and keep playing. Don't look at the scoreboard till the end of the game and try to score every time you touch it. Sometimes easier said than done, but it's something you got to try and force yourself into to make your team as good as it can be.
A lot of outside noise. It comes with the gig. You guys are pro football players. When things aren't going well, there's going to be a lot of chatter about it. How do you tune that out and just keep your head in the game?
For me, there's a lot of work to be done, and I can, got 4 games of tape of myself to look at and our team and, find out how we can be better. It's a quarter of the season. We didn't start it the way we wanted to, but there's 3 quarters left, and a lot of football and a lot of positivity left out there. So, I'm looking for us to rebound, bounce back, and start get things going.
Last thing, Matthew, bye week a little bit early this year. Does it come at a good time in your mind because it lets everybody exhale? You've got 12 games left, as you mentioned, and you want to hit the ground running when you come back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Bye weeks coming, good times, bad times. All it's just part of the gig, like you said. But it's definitely something that we could use to our advantage. Try to make sure that from a mental standpoint, we're doing everything we can to come out on the other side of this thing, rolling.
All right, there he is, Matthew Stafford. Had a chance to chat with him. He goes into the bye week. They will come back against Jacksonville here a week from Sunday. We'll take a break, close this thing down when we come back. Some final thoughts from Mike O'Hara, and his call of the game is coming up as well. So stick with us on this edition of Lions Review.
to more Lions Review. Presented by MGM Grand Detroit. Believe in your game. Here's Dan Miller.
On first down, Breeze wants to throw. Stepping up in the pocket, throws, end zone caught, Traquan Smith. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. That's just too easy.
It was.
I mean, I'm just telling you like it is. He's got a wide open receiver running down there with a step and a half on the defender.
And you know what? As we welcome you back to the Lions Review, Mike, that sounded suspiciously like the call of the game, sponsored by Ring Central, official partner of the Detroit Lions. Ring Central, message, video, phone together.
Yeah,
sounded
we made
suspiciously like it.
Yeah, we made that the call of the game, and that was made it 28-14, and it was just a two-man route, and you can see it. Max protection got the inside leverage on the defensive back, who was trailed him all the way into the end zone. All he had to do was reach his arms out and make the catch. Traquan Smith, I think he had 4 catches, 2 of them for touchdowns. Nice
it was a little disconcerting seeing how many open receivers were running around in this game. I mean, Emmanuel Sanders sat down in the middle of the field a couple times and nobody around him, and just caught a couple. And it's been an issue this year for these defensive backs, whether they're zone man, whatever it is. Too many open guys, and quarterbacks in this league. A, if they're not getting pressured. B, if they have open receivers, they're going to make you pay.
No, absolutely. And look, I don't think that Drew Brees did anything outstanding yesterday. Just I thought he just just managed the game. It was almost just like he was playing chess, just a nice quiet game. And he was moving the pieces around and then found the openings.
Mike, I was talking about this last night on the TV side. Look, Drew Brees is a great player. He's going to the Hall of Fame.
Great.
But if you give a quarterback 164 yards on the ground, you're taking pretty much all the pressure off him and allowing him to really work things into play action. And you're going to have some open guys. I mean, how many times in his career has Matthew Stafford had 164 yards on the ground from his running backs?
In a game or a month?
And I'm not making excuses for Matthew Stafford. I'm just saying it's man, the game gets a lot easier when you're not an offense that is one-dimensional, when you do have the threat of a run.
After their first play, the interception and the touchdown by the Detroit Lions made it 14-0. They ran the ball 42 times. They threw it 24 times. You're not going to lose with that. Absolutely, there's no way you can lose unless you fumble every other play.
And it makes life so easy for a quarterback. And it's just, I mean, look, if it all ends for Matthew Stafford in this way, I will go down as one saying that, look, he could have been better in some instances, but man, did they fail to put a team around him to help him more often than not.
I think it's the least we've gotten out of the greatest talent in all the years I've covered sports, and that goes back to 1966 for the Detroit News when I walked in that building for the first time. The greatest loss with that much talent that I've ever seen any player in the history of Detroit sports.
Because all too often it's been on his shoulders. And I know people hear that, and it was discussed last night on the show. People say, oh, you're just saying that back to the he needs more weapon things. No, it's not about that. It's about you can't just be one-dimensional. Teams start the game trying to make you one-dimensional. All too often during Stafford's career, they've been one-dimensional because that's all they could do was rely on his right arm. So, Michael, we got to get out of here. We will be here next week for a bye show. So don't stray far. Stay close to home. Stay safe. And be ready for next Monday night, because we're going to have to plot the course for the Lions to come back and figure out some way that they can be better. Look, the schedule lightens up, but you got other teams looking at the Lions saying, we like this one. So, Mike, thank you. Thanks for listening. Have a great night, everybody.